Apple just presented iOS 26 and spent an hour telling us that their new design gets out of the way and puts content first. They're wrong. In fact, their new design does the exact opposite. And the reason for it is a single decision, one tiny effect that they've placed everywhere, that constantly demands your attention. It's obvious to everyone that, for all its beauty, this new interface attracts more attention than ever before. It all comes down to the reflections and refractions. They draw so much focus. The interface is transparent. Yes, physically correctly transparent, but it's also loud. To understand why, you need to understand the fundamentals of design, or more specifically, one rule. Design is a system for managing attention, and its main tool is contrast. If we need a button to not attract extra attention, we try to make it low contrast. Translucent, subtle, even if it's easily distinguishable from the background. Now look at these new controls. They are high contrast simply by their nature. First, they have highlights, and because contrast is relative, we see that this highlight is the brightest spot in its vicinity. And the refractions. They create large patches of contrast, breaking the integrity of the content behind them. When we mute content with transparency and blur, we distance our UI from it, both in color and on an imagined Z-axis. The eye predictably understands what is content and what is clearly not content, which isn't trying to mimic it. But a refraction on a button, it's a beautiful spatial effect, but it uses the content itself, not muted, but distorted. In other words, we amplify the distracting factor by showing something that is maximally close to the content, but broken. And this core problem manifests across the entire system. The problem is deeper than just visual noise. It's a broken physical promise. We're shown glass, but it behaves like soft rubber. We lose the sense of premium heaviness, of coldness, even the fragility that we subconsciously associate with real glass. And when these high contrast, distorting elements are placed over a complex background, the result isn't premium. It's just messy. Look at the tab bar in the phone app or the new CarPlay interface. The number of edges, reflections, and nested panels creates a visual cacophony where there once was clarity. This same effect, stamped uniformly across every icon, creates another problem. It hurts identifiability. When every icon has the same bright artificial glint, it becomes a repetitive pattern that can slow down visual recognition. The unique character of each icon is sacrificed for a uniform effect. And sometimes this lack of attention to detail leads to basic errors in perception. Our brains are hardwired to see faces everywhere, a phenomenon called pareidolia. This new icon for liquid glass itself looks unmistakably like a discontented face. How could a company so famous for sweating the details miss this? By the way, discoveries like this unhappy face are exactly the kind of thing I stumble upon while researching these videos. I find way more material than I can ever fit into a final script, so I share all the extra articles, links, and behind-the-scenes thoughts in my free weekly newsletter. If you want to go deeper, the link is waiting for you in the description. And perhaps the most telling sign of all is the rampant inconsistency. Why are status indicators in Wallet always green, losing their function as a color-coded signal? Why are the icons in the game's app fully 3D and not flat glass like everywhere else? Why are the buttons there just plain white? It looks like the work of different teams who couldn't agree. So, are these just mistakes? A sign of a team rushing to meet a deadline? I don't think so. I think what we are witnessing is something far more profound. We are witnessing the end of the era of curation, the era of the Apple of Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive. The Apple that acted as a stern but brilliant curator of good taste. They made decisions for us. They gave us the super ellipse because it was more pleasing. They chose the materials. The design just worked because every detail was obsessively considered to serve a single unified vision. That era is over. We are now in the era of the canvas. The new Apple no longer sees its primary role as curating the perfect experience. Instead, it provides a powerful but increasingly chaotic canvas. Features like icon tinting and now these universal noisy reflections are the ultimate proof. Apple is giving you the tools and shifting the responsibility for the final result onto you. And it's important to understand this in itself is not good or bad. It's just different. There was a time when iOS 7 was a similar step towards maturity, a manifestation of rejecting direct imitation of physical materials. In the same way, liquid glass is a sign that Apple is doing its part beautifully and then setting your hands free. That's why they no longer try so hard to make the interface invisible. Interestingly, the exact same trend is latent in Google's expressive style. In design system, their visuals are much more prominent and bright than before, but with much greater freedom in how they can be applied. This departure from a single curated vision is a vast chasm compared to the philosophy that defined Apple's golden age. Allow me to make two predictions. First, get ready. In the next year, expect a tsunami of glass, reflections, and refractions on websites, in apps, in all of design. Most copies will be terrible, but the trend will be massive, no matter what anyone says. And second, Apple will calm it all down themselves in 2 or 3 years. In a hypothetical iOS 28, I expect heavily muted rubbery physics in the animations, significantly less use of refractions, and most likely the triumphant return of matte surfaces. And I really hope they find a fresh approach to gradients, because what's happening now is just getting ridiculous. The glow around the screen when you activate Siri, that's basically Copilot's colors, almost unchanged. Okay, it has its own spin. But look what they did during the presentation. When they showed something related to AI text on a gradient background, they used a gradient that is almost identical to Gemini's. What is this, Apple? What are you even doing? What's next? Are you going to take Instagram's gradient? Just kidding, that's impossible. Instagram's gradient is practically copy-proof, and you can see my video all about that. Bye.